Oregon. We cannot escape this map. Wherever we go, we always end up here.
Certainly so. It's like coming home, to be honest, really, going to Oregon. Goodness me. But of course, it is going to be a nice little decider. We've had some more of those kind of more interesting picks. You know, your theme park, one of the lowest picked maps globally. We've had Skyscraper 2, another map that's pretty, up until recently, has been very, very low picked globally. Oregon, it's that even Stevens playing field. It's been in the map pool since its changes for a very long time, and even then, not many too many changes that drastically changed things. If anything, it's made it a lot more smoother, a lot more coherent, and lots of nice ways you can control that map control and pressure. I really do think this is going to be a close one. However, Lost One starting on that defense, I will say that slightly gives them maybe a bit of an edge here. Again, though, we've seen how much these rounds have come down to those last few seconds, Novi. I can't predict it.
Yeah, I feel like I want to see the first 3 rounds. After that point, I'd feel comfortable with throwing my hat in the ring. At the moment, I'm with you, 50-50 going either way. I just want to touch on those operator bans, though, Grace. Solis still up. Azami still up. Mira still up. Kaid still up. The Umai being removed is an interesting one, but Jaeger is still there. And Nagoyo plus the Monty. That was called on the desk. Very well done, CDAPS. And Alva Jacob.
I think the Vulcans being banned out, of course, is just to delay that final collapse. Or just to enable that final collapse, rather, because that's where you would have the Vulcans on this map. A lot of them are positioned to deal with those final choke points. Remember, the final entry point to a lot of these sites, they're these very, very tight positions, these very tight angles that you have to get through and push yourself through. Vulcans can certainly be very useful there as a result. The thing that's interesting for me is, again, the fact that we are going to start downstairs, and I do think that is the safest bet. The site with the highest defensive win rate in this region of Brazil. But even then, you've got a little bit of overextension too, which, to be honest, I'm here to see. Look, already, they're getting a little bit dicey with it, extending aggressively into blue. You've even seen Dash run up and down this staircase, just making sure in case anyone's pushing from Small Tower or Zulu, that they are ready and waiting, shotgun in hand, to collect themselves potentially a little freebie.
Looking for that freebie, but are not rewarded. Just takes a bit of damage. That mute with that C4, we've seen how deadly Lost One can be with those nitro cells. Very on point. Nigel gets the information. A drone going out in front as well to start clearing Freezer. Nigel had a fantastic Skyscraper. Will it carry on forward into Oregon? So far, just holding the Freezer position. Might need to back off, but that is forcing Lost One back towards the site. They can start turning their attention to the hatches in the main lobby, and it looks like MIBR are trying to take on almost a 3-prong assault. They've got Freezer. They're looking at that backside towards the bunker, and then they've also got main lobby as well.
Yeah, just almost dipping their toes in every dimension towards this site. And the main factor is pillars can sometimes be very difficult to clear if you don't have the right utility. We do see Nigel attempting to use a nade, but especially when you've got those Kiba barriers as an extra little bit of a block here. The diciest of gunfights happen. There we go immediately. Both teams taking some fresh blood. Fal's going to take down Maya as well before being taken out by Tobin. Already, Perez can trade back onto Lobin too, so trades across the board, Novi. It's looking like the stock market.
Looking like the stock market. Are we going to get a bull market? Or is it starting to go the other way like the Bears? Dash running on towards Freezer, but the closer he gets this angle, the closer he gets to Lucadira, but blows him into the next century. But Perez is on a tear. A triple in the first round of Oregon. Dash 180s, removes the star player from MIBR, and it's up to 1 versus 1. Lost One looking for that first round. MIBR looking to get an attack on one of the most defender-sided sites on this map, and Lost One do it with a shotgun blast to blow MIBR away.
But again, a 1 versus 1. The skin of the teeth moments that both these teams are having every single time. Is it because they're not giving themselves enough leeway, enough time to actually set up for a correct execute? Or is it that these teams are just so good at shutting each other down, it becomes so scrappy? Again, we see consistently just these little swings. It's always the smoke players too, I noticed. It's the SMG-11s flying through the air towards those final moments of the round. The time is ticking down and the bullets are flying out, Novi. It certainly is entertaining to watch. I think for me personally, it's going to start getting a little bit snappier now. We are going to kids. Again, this can be a bit more defender favoured. Granted, you know, it really will come down to how MIBR are utilising what they're bringing. They're already bringing the Flores out too. So much clearance they can make with those little drones.
Now, with the dormitories on that top floor, I'm looking no buck being brought by MIBR to try and open up underneath. So there is the sledge, the Flores as well, and also those air jams. I don't feel like it was a huge issue with the rotations. Low1 kind of hunkered in on site, and MIBR just couldn't really crack their armor. Instead, they're still bringing it just in case, maybe with the Oryx as a redundancy, as a fail-safe to make sure the Lobin's not going to catch them off guard.
And here we go back util clear. Yes, you have ADSs, but ADSs aren't going to do anything about those Rotoro drones. Rise, however, taking on Perez. Already, the ace being taken, being yeeted and deleted out of the server. That's going to apply a bit more pressure to MIBR now. No hard reach to try and get these walls open. The Kiva barriers go out, a little bit of a cheeky kind of, yep, you're not pushing through here, my guy.
2 minutes remain. Air jabs going out on the kitchen to avoid any cheeky rotations. Dash is going to hear that sound cue and know, but Nigel will spot him out right now, or should do, hopefully. Yep, here's the drone, destroys it. Knows there is a second one. The peek around the door, but no. Okay, Nigel was going to go for it. You could see the no. Low1 just backing out. Dash like, I'm not going to take that fight. No need to. Come back off the position. Just keep wasting that time. Now in security. Now, where is the rest of MIBR pushing? Because if they start messing about with the Valkyrie for too long, they're going to run out of time for that execute. And we've seen how chaotic that can get.
I was wondering if that was going to happen. We see Lobin coming through with the extra team play. They weren't able to drone him out. They were hyper-focusing on the position of Dash. And that allowed a beautiful little crossfire to be held down at stairs. Lukey, potentially not aware of the dangers that may be existing behind him, but there we go. Lobin and Maya coming through. What a piece. And poor Fowl's left. And 1v. Oh my goodness! Cleans it up at 2k. But will they clutch this out? It's looking highly unlikely. A 1 versus 3. The pistol whip across the floorboards. Lovely, lovely stuff. Again, they did try and deal with this pressure below, but the team play that was there, gorgeous stuff. Again, just the additional pressure of the Oryx to be like, okay, I've noticed they've droned. They think it's clear. I can swing out here and protect the Valkyrie that's lurking around CCTV when they try and go for that kitchen push. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Chef's kiss.
Chef's kiss. Kish?
Kish.
Kiss.
Kish.
It's because I was thinking it's going to go into the kitchen now, and combine the words meeting kitchen instead of meeting dining.
Yes. And an interesting
kitchen dining.
An interesting thing is that meeting kitchen, certainly in my opinion, the more favourable site to go to, but actually in terms of the Brazilian statistics, it's very 50-50 meeting kitchen. Very 50-50, but as is kitchen dining. So again, I really think that in this region, teams really know how to attack it. They know the steps they have to go through. Again, we want to really be looking at those fundamentals. Solus being brought out by Rise there. Is that going to be a problem for MIBR? Remember how much they struggled with their drone eco previously. I know I keep bringing it up, but it's such an important factor that they really need to maintain control over. Rise needs to be dealt with ASAP.
Yep, information is power. And if Rise goes unchecked, Rise can just clear up all the drones, and then there's no information for MIBR, and they're desperate to get that round, or their first of this game, on the board. Of course, MIBR, they're looking probably for at least 2 rounds, really, to feel in a comfortable position. They don't want it to run away from them. It did last time. So, don't want to do that fight back once more. It's too exhausting for the first time. Don't want to do it again. Don't want to repeat.
The most important factor of taking your beating approach is clearing this top floor, making sure that they can't go for that retake from the attic, especially if you are choosing to sell up for that rear stage collapse. But now, though, it looks like MIBR aren't really approaching the big tower, so maybe potentially they are actually setting up for a kitchen take. Ooh, a little bit dicey there. But Zero is going to get that barrier up and does escape with their life for now.
Yeah, backs off. And you see both teams, this is so different, right, from the last two maps. Both teams being way more cautious with their play. Neither one wants to suffer that first blood, and then the pressure starts mounting. Problem with that is Lost One happy to sit back and let MIBR do all the work. There we go, Selma charge going out, so that will help Lobin, or not help Lobin. Actually put him at a bit of a disadvantage, but Nitrocell through the floor, getting tagged from below, but it doesn't matter. Dash gets it off before being traded back. MIBR keeping themselves in that round, but that was a beautiful threading the needle by Dash, his first death of the game in just 3 rounds. But he is 5-1. He's done a lot of heavy lifting. Can Los One and the rest of the players step up and show us what they're made of?
Zero has been doing a lot of ducking and weaving thus far throughout that round. They still haven't been able to apply that pressure all the way into meeting. It's going out as a bit of a clap back as Reduct does take down Rise. Lisa Soul is finally dealt with, and that's also .Zero dealt with. So MLBR, so much breathing room they've created for themselves, but 25 seconds to go. Well, certainly this will be a comfortable collapse, you would assume. Maya does take out Peraz, but can they get this play on the hatch? They can. Reduct is going to fall down. A 2v1, much more doable. The C4 goes out. It's not going to tag anyone. And I think Maya going all the way into green, certainly that is a safer bet. They're not going to know where he is lurking. But a swing round the corner, fouls, securing that for MIBR.
And MIBR all collectively sigh a breath of release. We've just got a round on the board. And that was the one that they had to win. That, in theory, is the weakest site for Los One. It's the best chance for attackers, win rate-wise as well. It came very close at the end. You can see Maya got the first, then the player in the hatch. MIBR almost paused in fear because they're worried about messing it up. Manages to eventually send it home, and Los One not going to get that flawless rear run. But we are down into the basement, and Los One looked very, I want to say very good. They looked better, not shooker from the previous round, previous half, but came down to a 1v1 race.
And again, it's this idea that they keep coming down to these final moments of, you know, very, very by the nail. The timer so low every single time. I don't want to jump the gun, but I'm already feeling it's giving overtime right now, you know?
Oh, no, you can't do that. That's too...
I can.
I did say after... I did say after 3 rounds I'd make a prediction, but I'm not going to go that far with it. Why? Justify your position. I'll put you on the spot. Why do you feel like it's going to be overtime?
Because it's becoming so close, you know, even though there should be the more defender favor. And again, we've seen how Lost One are so clean cut on their attacks. I think that even when the side switch happens, they're still going to have a field day. And again, it will still come down to the nail. It will still come so close with these two. I don't think anyone is going to comfortably be taking this one, to be honest, Novi.
Well, that remains to be seen. This half is going to be very, very indicative. MIBR looking at least for another round. Los One, they should win Laundry. It is one of the highest win rate sites, not just on this map, but also across most of the maps as well. It's very, very comfortable. A lot of teams actually view this site as a bit of a freebie, especially if they can get the opening kill. But MIBR and Los One, both of them, very, very quiet. Not going aggressive. Freezer control starting to be gained by Nigel. And we've seen this one before in the last half. MIBR open up lots of angles into the site. They just failed to cohesively execute.
That's it. It's taken advantage of the setup that you've created for yourself. Speaking of things you've created for yourself, it's kind of more passive batter down the hatches approach. Yes, it can be effective because you can assume they'd still try and drone you out, but if the teams are effectively realizing they have all this map control for free, they're just going to start setting up for their execute. They're going to get these hatches open nice and swiftly. Look at this, the Flores drone's coming through too.
Ooh.
Love the use of the Osa here on the back tower stairs too. That's going to give an additional line of defense, especially with how aggressive these pre-fires from pillars tends to go down. And C4 doesn't quite land.
Yeah, there we go, Bo. No Talon shield to defend the attackers on that front, which means the Osa might have to risk or risky biscuits their way down those stairs and get themselves a better defensive position. I don't think that's going to be the case. And now MIBR, I think they were relying on that Talon shield to then be able to clear out pillars sort of in a step-by-step stage, but seeming that shield's gone, it's getting a bit dicey. Ooh. Rise goes aggressive, blows Lukidir away, but Falls is having a fantastic play. Nigel just jumps down the stairs. Falls gets traded by Dash. It's a 3-on-3 with 25 seconds, and MIBR need to pull the trigger now. That's another one for Low Swan looking comfortable, but MIBR are circling. They still got 2 players alive, and there is a little bit of time to play with.
Certainly so. Ooh, Dash! Dashing away, escaping with the life for now, but ooh, the shotgun to the face. There we go, Perez gets taken out, and there's no time for MIBR to make something happen. Yet again, no Viva, time, and again, the time. The time. Sixth defense. Oh, I mean, we've said that to death so far, but it is true. It's true. It's been brought too close at the end. I'm going to be trying to sleep later, and I'm just going to have the sound of the timer ticking away going off in my ears, because goodness me, the amount of times we've seen that again so close. The time really is the main factor here. Despite the fact, again, I touched on this at the start of the round, despite the fact that Lost One, they had a batten down the hatches approach. They weren't going for these mass extensions. You weren't going for mass roams. No one was playing on the top floor to potentially, go for a bit of a flank later on to try and catch them off guard. They weren't trying anything, snazzy like that. They were being very basic with their approaches. And MIBR, despite that, really struggled to set up for these collapses into the basement. Granted, you do have to take your hat off to them, though. The Osa shield, as you put, having that kind of util and setting it up, but if a C4 comes through, you've not really got anything to defend it but your own gun, and if you miss that shootout, it's just going to get rid of it.
But my issue was with MIBR is they suddenly just fired that starting pistol and ran straight in, and it worked. Yes, it was a back and forth trade, but they didn't really lose that initial engagement. They traded equally. They could have probably moved that initial execute forward by about 30 seconds. And it's that factor of holding on a bit too long, going, we'll just drone out that tiniest bit more. Maybe we don't know what's going on in this room or what have you, and that's what's costing them. They need to be more self-assured in their game plan, because when we've seen them snap their fingers from the IGL and say, go on in, Nigel just yeets off the stairs and starts hitting headshots. It works for MIBR. They need to just trust in themselves at that tiniest bit more.
Go, Vo. Maybe once again really making use of the way that Oryx can be played here. Dash and Lobin once again. This duo play that they had when it came to this kid site, it worked so well. They're able to keep each other alive. Well, certainly not this time. I think this time MIBR are wise to it. A little bit of a hole being made there by fouls, and certainly they will take advantage of that. Getting a beautiful little peek there onto Lobin, who was none the wiser.
And a big, major factor, right, for MIBR. And they said this on the desk. CDAP said, well, we were questioning, can Perez step up? Can Nigel step up? And now can they carry that forward through Oregon? Perez can. Nigel so far had a good performance last round, but I'm waiting for him to have that spectacular performance. They've actually been relying on Falls, but Nigel might be about to flank. No, Dash actually removed by Reduct, had the flank. He's going to be pinched either way. A brilliant play by MIBR so early on with a minute remaining, and they've just taken a 4 vs 5 into a 3 vs 5. Great positioning.
The thing is, they struggled with Lobin and Dash last time, but they dealt with Lobin very quickly. They did just finally deal with Dash, but they had to rely on 2 players going into basement in order for that to come through. I think it was actually 3 players in basement. Now the timer is ticking. Yes, they can push up white stairs, and Nate from below is going to do a bit of damage to Maya as well. But that's going to let them know that, okay, it's going to be a bit of a white push here. .0 can start to get a little bit fruity here. There we have it. Perez getting taken clean out.
Nicely done. .0 gets that first, but Maya is just decimated by the frag grenade, and there's a flurry of kills. MIBR, what on earth happened? And they just brought it home very, very quickly. Everyone takes those separate engagements. Last one maybe should have considered staying back, running that clock down a bit lower. Got a bit bolshy with it, a bit too aggressive, and MIBR smacked them back down to take a second round win. And Grace, that wasn't even on the tertiary site. That was on dormitories. That was Lost One. They looked very, very good previously on that site.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing, right? It's, you know, you've got to be more mindful when, yes, they've dealt with 2 of your players. You're now in like a 3v5. But if you have, you know, the timer slightly more in your favor, you know, less than a minute was there. Did we have to have such aggression around the window of Attic, or could .0 have gone into a bit more of a tighter angle towards even that breach, to be honest? The you know, reinforced wall had a bit of a tighter angle, caught them off guard maybe on the flank. Little positions where you can go for more of these ratty plays, hold these crossfires together, be willing and ready for any of these approaches that might come through. However, you know, you could also play down to .0 just being mindful, okay, I don't really want that, you know, kids repel to start to come through. Maybe that's why they went for the shutdown, and that's why they chose to go a bit more aggressive there, Novi.
It's brilliant stuff from MIBR. They need to keep this pressure on. If they can bring it to a 3 versus 3, you said overtime's on the table. I'm thinking MIBR might be able to walk away with this series. Los One, pressure is on to perform. They have to close out this round.
Certainly do. Come out though. Just getting rid of some of this utility again. Also, those Cuba barriers can start to be plonked out. It's again where we maybe want to see a bit more passiveness come through from the side of Lost One. Rise just needs to set out maybe a Cuba barrier onto that doorway. You do run the risk, though, if you get the angle slightly off, that you can't go for any more of these little pre-fires. This aggression in Trophy that we all know and love. I think Armory pretty much is going to be given very, very quickly into the willing and open arms of Lukidara, as well as Nigel starts to apply pressure here onto the double window. So again, really nicely setting up for what they're attempting to do here. Pretty much uncontested as well. They haven't really run into too much issue. No engagements yet on both sides, Novi.
No, but an impact. Stop first set of hard breaches. There's the opening engagement. It's for Dots. Los One take first blood. Nigel removed from play. But there's plenty more utility available for MIBR to leverage in their favor. The Kiba barrier is now slowing them down, also giving the sound cue. They'll know that someone is knocking on the door in Trophy, looking on through as they open the wall into the games room, or Jenny, or whatever you want to call it now. Both teams will start setting up the crossfires, and it really comes down to those battle lines. Do they hold position as defenders, or do they try and push aggressively? Both teams have those line of sight. Both teams have lines open, and they now need to be careful of who is going to pull the trigger first.
Speaking of triggers, his Rise's discipline on his own trigger going to be... Ooh, well, ooh, being the main point of that sentence, because those smokes, the firebolts coming through, just to make sure that anyone that wants to get a little bit cheeky and push towards them as they try and collapse gets caught off guard. Fal's getting a second one there after killing someone with that firebolt. Ooh, gets caught out there by Maya, though. Gorgeous stuff. Poor Perez now left in a 1 versus 3, and there we have it. Maya can shut that down. Lost One at least brushing themselves off their Novi. I appreciate the use of util that we just saw from MIBR.
Yeah, Falls looking spectacular right then, but he gets himself into that super hyper aggressive position. But where's Perez? He's downstairs, not even close. So maybe a bit of miscommunication there on MIBR's front, looking to go aggressive and not having all the players ready. We said we critiqued them for taking a bit too long. Maybe they pulled the trigger a bit too quickly that time. And now Los One, as we move on to their attack, we saw them be certainly more rigid than MIBR, sort of a cleaner style, but still running into the same problems, especially in their droning. So will that still be a factor here?
Very curious to see if MIBR go for a bit more of a spread out approach, given how much map control they love to maintain. You know, typically on a lot of maps that they play, they will go for these full extensions. Already we're seeing it. I kind of, ooh, it's cheeky. I like it. Perez on their own, potentially Nigel on their own. We'll see if they do go back to site. But again, look at this extension. You've got Redux all the way in Kids and Bunk, though. And that's a bit fruity to me, Novi. I'm wondering if they will fall back down to site or whether they're willing to hold onto one of these choke points. Or maybe it's a bit of a delayed setup here. They have meeting hatch open, which can be a little bit risky at times. Again, this really relies on you keeping that control under your belt, not getting caught off guard. Otherwise, they're getting a hatch for free.
Yeah, very, very, very true. But with the attic hatch, it gives that credence for that late rotation, or potentially try and catch the attackers with their trousers around their ankles, not expecting it. Now Nigel, in a very, I want to say, one and done position, forces you to keep a barrier to make his way out of there. He's going to walk down the corridor into 90, but that keeper barrier buys enough time, and this is a great use for Azami. A lot of the time we see her used for creating those angles, but actually just as that utility delay to delay the attackers moving through is very, very clever, and allows him to play, you know, that small tower position is very, very risky, but still plays it by himself on his own, and LoSwan can't capitalize on that.
Main thing is, what are they going to capture? Oh, this is a bit dangerous. Loban just going for it, dropping down in E-box like that and just going immediately into sight. Gets taken out eventually by Nigel. Before the trade start flying through from Lost One. Already a 2 versus 2. That was certainly scrappy. A bit of a chaotic execute attempt from Lost One, though. Already having the util to really, again, capitalize off that. You put it perfectly. Now we see Dash and Rise, they have to try and make this work when there is fouls on the board, and he still has all of those toxic babes firmly plonked in his hands. There goes one. Again, you consider the time that Lost One have to use here. They do have a fair bit of time. They have smokes and flashes. But can they make something come out of it?
There's smokes and flashes, but the Warden is still alive and kicking.
Ooh.
Well, there's no longer a smoke who's kicking. That Warden is, though. So he's going to be pushing into elbow. Not going to be greeted by any LoSwan players. 30 seconds. His glasses are running out of charge. So maybe those flashes and smokes will start paying dividends. But LoSwan need to get in a position. They're not quite sure where he is playing right now. That gives MIBR the space, the room to take them by surprise. But hiding in elbow, will they predict that? Will they expect that position to be played by Lukadira? Can't hear the plant going down just yet. You can see them panicking, almost going, well, where on earth is he? Even trying to bait him out, but he's coming to play the surprise card. Uno reverse, though. He almost freaks himself out when he sees an attacker standing around the corner, runs on in, trying to deny the diffuser, but it doesn't work out. And LoSwan win the attacking round on the basement defense, Grace.
That was so uncomfortable then. They were planting where the angle, the way that that kind of line of sight had been created, it was a little bit low towards where they were planting. Goodness me, that was making my heart beat. LoSwan, though. 5-2 now, Novi. How'd you like those apples? I mean, goodness me. This is... Okay, I take... You know, I said it was going to keep being back and forth. I will eat my words here. I will eat my words. LoSwan already looking very, very strong on this attack. But how long can they maintain this? Again, a big part of that round as well, to be honest, is them doing something so razzle-dazzle-y that it actually surprised me themselves. Just being like, okay, we'll drop E-box. We see it's a bit clear. We'll just go in. Initial frustrations, though, because the flurry of kills that we then saw really was down to MIBR almost being kind of surprised that they were in sight and Lost One then having to just try their best to get those picks under their belt. I would say it was an uncomfortable collapse, if anything.
Yeah,
it was. Could I even consider it a collapse? It felt like there wasn't really much of a 3-2-1 happening. Not really any coordination at that. Goodness me. Dangerous antics. Dangerous antics.
It was just uncomfortable, like you said, but for both sides. Like it's like on the first end of the job and they do an icebreaker and no one wants to talk first. That's what it felt like just then, right? You know, neither team wanted to do the introduction, stayed away from each other and went, wait, hold on a second, we can actually plant here. And then things got very, very tight with the timings. But MIBR, they need this round, like, desperately. We said this all through this series. They keep allowing themselves to get pushed against the wall. You don't need to do that if you just win and keep level playing field. It seems like they're better when they're playing from behind.
It's getting frisky. It's getting bizarre. It's getting risky. Let's see what happens now, though. Again, top floor control seems to be the first point of call for Lost One. Just making sure that they can deal with any of these roamers. Again, the extended hold that MIBR were bringing last time. Just want to deal with it nice and early. Maybe not try anything a bit too crazy this time. Go for something a bit more traditional. Clear out the roamers and then set up for that collapse. See how they do with it. I think already MIBR are playing this a lot more patient too. They are willing to fall back. They're getting back into sight now. Battering down the hatches, as we love to say.
Yep. Battering down the hatches, hunkering in, turtling, whatever you want to call it. MIBR, they allowed Los One to sort of walk in on site at the end, and we had that awkward exchange. They don't want that to happen again. That does give Los One a bit more map control to play around with. Still not sure in Big Tower. So they're doing their due diligence with their droning, but again, this wastes time. Now that hatch has been open, or well, that hatch was already opened, and the angle can be played, the Buck will start removing the freedom of movement that MIBR has around that corner and towards pillars, making the execute far, far harder. But Grace, 30 seconds and a full 5-on-5 execute. We're about to be in for a treat.
Flash is going out. Always acting as a bait there because one of those C4s has been wasted. Ooh, massive kills on Pillivo. Luki Dara going huge. And there we have it, a third one to clean up Rise. MIBR really, really clean with pushing back that collapse.
Yep. Ran the clock down. Knew it was coming. And at that point, because they know they can set up their crossfires, throw any remaining utility at the wall. If it hits, it hits. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But it's going to make Low Swan panic. MIBR proving there's still a bit of fight to them.
Certainly hotting up now. Capital being brought out. We're seeing a lot of Capital this map so far, considering that I don't often get to see a lot of Capital nowadays, let's be honest. I do love the way that people have been trying to use it for these collapses into games. Again, just smoking off, you know, the kind of peak from top of white. Again, if people want to start then applying pressure from kids itself, sometimes people do start to run out and they get a bit more aggressive. If they're especially not holding that rotation into Attic. The Firebolt certainly have been doing a good job of holding people off there. It's just, again, it came down to gunfights last time. Let's see how Lost One do with it, though, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, very curious to see how that plays out.
We were holding on for not just the Perez and full show, and it looks like MIBR starting to deliver. Luke feeling a lot more comfortable, it appears, on that defensive side, and Nigel not having as explosive of a game, but still winning ones, which is instrumental in the team's performance. Lowe's one, still with a full rotation. I don't know, the sinking of sights has been brought off balance. Reduct goes, tries to find a headshot, getting sprayed through the garage wall. But despite losing a bit of HP and not confirming the kill, that will send a message to Lowe's one and keep them on their toes.
Right before the storm for now. Trying to apply pressure. I think maybe Dash can go for this army control pretty soon. Again, I love the way they're using these Osa shields just to give them a little bit of extra cover, especially on that double where a lot of utility can be thrown out. This gives you that extra safety net to try and go for some of these peaks if people do want to get a bit bolshy with it. Maya, speaking of being bolshy, the tiniest bit of health now because Perez is just playing, I believe that's Perez, is just playing in this very aggressive angle. Ooh, there we have it. Dash getting taken out. The nade does come through. So a lovely little trade there, Novi.
Lovely trade. But that's Perez on the Aruni with the long DMR who is holding the angle through from Armory. That's going to make the situation a lot tighter for MIBR losing that player. But there's a load of tools still in their toolbox that they can use. That Solus being alive is going to do wonders for them. Plus the goo mines perpetually going out. Lukadira takes another one, pushing that advantage into the favor of MIBR. Surya Gate pulled on the big window, but Low Swan running out of time. That's been the name of the game. Maya very low, gets removed. Lukadira starting to pop off here. Nigel with another one, and MIBR, where has this been all game? Looking far better as Rise is the solitary player for Low Swan on his lonesome and is removed.
Removed, yeeted, thrown,
deleted,
dispelled. Looking good for MIBR right now. Again, a very swift cleanup. Just winning their ones really there too. Not being afraid at that point as well to actually be like, okay, we can take the gunfight to them. They're being really passive here. What often is the case when you want to try some of this good old-fashioned, aggression, you want to just suddenly go for the swing. Remember, the attackers have that little checklist that they have to go through, so often their focus is, okay, what's the next step here? If you suddenly swing out of nowhere, you just appear in a hole, that can often throw a spanner in the works, so you will, 9 times out of 10, win that one. Plus one, how are they retaliating, though? The IQ being brought, Novi.
IQ being brought. Interesting. Well, no more. My swapped over almost immediately. But Grace, site rotations. MIBR choosing kitchen dining. But if they lose this, I believe basement and dormitories are still locked off. So they will have to fight Low Swan while Low Swan is on series point, elimination point for MIBR on their tertiary site.
Looking a little bit dangerous, one might say. A little bit dangerous. I think again, dining is probably my least preferred, but well, there certainly is a good start. Again, I was going to say, if you're going to go to the dining kitchen site, you have to get super aggressive around this small tower, and that's exactly what Nigel is going to do. Dash removed with all those candelas, all those important candelas, presumably maybe for the collapse. But again, even then, it's potential utility you could have used to clear out some of these nasty choke points, especially with these Kiba barriers just here, there, and everywhere, defending Nigel in what is the main power position for this take right now, Novi.
And Low Swan, they don't know how to deal with this. Here we go, the Captor bolt's going out. There is an ADS, and finally is removed surgically from small tower, but not without another player being broken down for Low Swan. MIBR on top form to push this to a 5 versus 5 in a very strong position. However, Low Swan has a lot of time to play around with. Yes, they've lost a lot of utility, but a Capital still available. They still have Hard Breach. They still have flashes, plus the smokes as well on that tactical crossbow.
Main thing is they really need to start getting this shower control, and as we can see, Lukadera has a lot of these mirror windows set up, and that's where the danger now starts to be, because that kind of utility, do they have anything to do with it? Not really. They're going to have to get up close and personal. We see Lobin trying to go potentially for some Verti. And they've realized, okay, we can't really go for this shower take. We're going to have to go upstairs. We're going to have to pound that Verti and maybe start applying some of this pressure a bit more directly. This is where things get maybe a bit more interesting. Still a lot of time to work with. And I think if you're MIBR, you are still trying to keep a hold of showers because you know you have all the power here. But you certainly will start to be mindful as you hear the rustling upstairs.
Yep. the rustling of Los One players as they scuttle to open those vertical angles. Rise, interestingly enough, looking to push through small tower and potentially get on that door. The big rush by Lobin, it doesn't work out. .0 falls as well. Rise, last man standing. MIBR 1 kill away from equalizing that scoreline and taking what was a 5-2 lead for Los One to level playing field. Even Stevens' pistol comes out, but Luki Dira, who's been a hero on the defensive side, brings MIBR home and gives us that 5 vs 5 round difference.
Solo collapses work if everybody else is doing something on those additional dimensions as well. It's something we keep seeing from Los One, these sudden hatch drops from them, which, yes, granted, if you get a kill, it can open up a lot of breathing room, but it's so risky and so dangerous, especially if you're not bringing any utility elsewhere or any kind of distraction. And again, the slight whiff of the shot there, it could have been massive for Lobin if he actually landed that, but he didn't, Novi. And at that point, it just falls apart because you've got 2 solo pushes in different angles, and you're left being like, okay, well, we can't really play for the trade here. They have the advantage here. And oh, by the way, there's still a ton of Black Mirrors around showers. Very uncomfortable for Los One there. Very uncomfortable indeed. And MIBR, as you say, they've brought this to even Stevens, but can they bring it to match point?
Now, you say make it feel uncomfortable for Los One, force him to take a tactical timeout. I was actually wrong on the sites. MIBR has basement, right? They can go back down to it, which means if they win it, they're on series point. Then Dormitories opens up. This is the run through that they're looking for. They've looked very, very strong on these sites, very consistent. Los One really threw the book at them in terms of aggression, and MIBR held firm and did not waver. You said earlier maybe overtime's on the cards, and then Los One started running away with it. MIBR, this is the home stretch. This is the final sprint. They should be able to close this one out.
I think the main thing with MIBR's defense is it's again the fact that they are willing to go for these extensions, and their aggressive extensions too. And Los One have been struggling to deal with that. You know, we saw the Azami set up in small tower. That essentially can be like a 1vx if you all push from direct angles with the right kind of communication. You get some 3-2-1s on point. Didn't quite come through for them then. Eventually they did deal with it, but at that point, it's like they wasted so much utility that they were kind of left with scratching their heads, being like, well, how do we actually approach the rest of this now? We've burnt so much util. But now I think they're going a bit more classical, a bit more old-fashioned. They're going to go and take the big tower control. Again, ready and waiting for them will be Luki Dara. So even if they do have flashes, again, the Warden utility, remember, Novi. We've seen how impactful that has been for the side of MIBR.
Smart glasses work. E1D chiming that low, not chiming really, thundering with that bassy tones to cause the Warden to pause on the stairs. Will now tunnel back down into sight. That's big tower cleared. And most of this, if not all of this floor, there's one player not on that bottom floor right now. Everyone else has retreated back down. Once Los One clears the dormitories and clears out the Solus, most importantly. Fantastic shot. What on earth? Maya just destroys Nigel. And with that opening pick, that gives Los One complete freedom on the other 2 floors. And MIBR, the pressure is on. Los One has beaten them on this bottom floor beforehand.
The main thing, again, is how they're going to set up for this collapse, though, because their collapses have been so clunky. They need to do something a bit more coherent. Half the round has gone now. So, again, being mindful of the timer, looking for a few more of these picks. Again, we already see the slight overextension here from Reduct. Reduct, who, to be honest, throughout this series, hasn't had the kind of plays that we do expect from him. So maybe he can put his money where his mouth is and try something a little bit different now.
Bit different.
For the Storm, Novi, this is a dangerous thing, though. They need to make sure they're taking these gunfights.
Yep. Gotta take the engagements. Los One have plenty of tools at their disposal. Those Candelas looking mighty fine in .0's pocket, but would look even better thrown deep onto sight and start causing panic in the MIBR a camp, but Rise is removed. No E1Ds. Flores also removed by Falls. Los One looking a bit dire in this situation because MIBR, they want to take that series point. There's another one. There's the final one. Wow. MIBR, baby, on that series point. They have been playing from behind almost this entire series, but they've shown up where it counts most, and that's an Oregon in the final few rounds.
It definitely ironed out the problems, especially in that last map when it comes to the amount of information game they're playing around. And here they are just working with the fact that, yes, we're at that even Stevens playing field. Where will it matter now? Oh, look, the map control. So what are we going to do? We'll extend out our defenses. We'll play that roam game. We'll be willing to do that. Lost one. This is your chance now. Pull it to the overtime. The third and final map. One of these teams is going up against Liquid. But this has been an absolute scrap from them both, to be honest, Novi.
Yeah. Completely and utterly. What a phenomenal game we have been treated to. And it's also force Los One, unless we see Dash switching off it at the last split second. No line. The Jackal being brought. Struggling with that roam game so much. I mean, I say struggle. Last round, it looked fantastic. It was so clean and efficient to pick off Nigel on that dormitory hold on the Solus. But instead, they're still bringing the Jackal. They want that extra bit of information. MIBR, they are one round away from advancing to Liquid.
Certainly are. Again, I love it once again. We're seeing Nigel in these really, really nice positions, holding big tower. Along with the Warden holding big tower, we're going to see the Kiva barriers be used as the defensive utility there. Which, do you know what? I quite like too. I love the fact also that we're seeing Dash go in through the basement, just making sure that the roam game isn't extending into there. And if it is, they're caught out nice and early. Look already. Oh, gorgeous stuff. Perez is going to fall. That Solus utility yeeted from the hands of MIBR. It's looking good already for Lost One, Novi.
Yep. Amazing. MIBR getting rinsed so early on, getting a dose of their own medicine. Lost One. Maya just picking off that kill has been a bit quieter this game, but is stepping up where it counts. Still has both frag grenades, plenty of time. That Jackal ping is going out from the Inox as well. Attic opening up. Now Los One have suddenly, after that opening kill, Grace, they are sprinting towards the finish. They can see the end in sight, and they're just ramming off that checklist as fast as possible.
Fast checklist indeed. What's even faster is the potential of them repositioning in some dicier positions, trying to catch Lost One a little bit off guard. They know that they're struggling to get this wall open from the closet. Moix Kairos going out. And again, the aggressive setups that we keep seeing from MIBR. Will Lukidera collect himself a nice little scalp? No, he's not. He's going to fall back. Dash. Looking for the swing around the corner, again willing, knowing how dangerous that angle can be. Nigel, though, getting a little bit fruity with it. This is exactly what I'm talking about, Novi. When it comes to these moments, MIBR, they just go with the really aggressive approaches, but aggression can be taken advantage of. There we have it, Reduction Nigel falling down. As we also see Lukidera fall too. Falls, it's all left down to you, a 1v4. The Sharks are covering you. This baby seal is going to fall down. We are going potentially into overtime.
Potentially, Grace. There's no potentially about it. You called it. Stop that. Like, Grace has a crystal ball in front of her. I swear. Like, how? You were like, so early on, after what, 3 rounds, you went, I think there's going to be an overtime. Like, how? How have we ended up here, Grace?
It's just the way the cookie crumbles, right? You know, you've got the fact that on that initial first half, we saw a lot of safety plays coming through from Lost One, and that allowed MIBR to take advantage at times of the fact that they were playing pretty passively on their setups. On the other side of it, MIBR play a completely different ballgame. They go for these overextensions, but the main factor with overextensions when you go to the extended defense is that you have to be mindful that if they catch you off guard, the trades can't come through as easily. On that last round, it's like, granted, some of these angles you're holding, they can be a little bit risky. They can, you know, suddenly shut down the players. It will catch them off guard. Again, like I spoke about earlier, why aggression on defense can be so impactful. They've got their checklist to go through. However, sometimes that aggression, if it is caught off guard because of the almost ridiculousness and the danger aspect of these angles, you can be shut down very easily. You can be caught off guard by the multiple lines of sight that are even in your own setup. You can be taken advantage of by your own setup. Speaking of advantage, the bits being brought to the table, Novi, that's a little bit spicy from Lost One.
I was gonna say, Grace, doth my eyes deceive me? Lobin sprinting with the blitz. I said they were in the home straight, but maybe they took that quite literally to clear off that top floor. But not going to find anyone. So a huge amount of information gained from Los One, with a bit of a risk being taken, but they'll take that to the bank all day. Now that top floor has been taken by Los One, what do they do now? MIBR still have players on that first floor. Insecurity yet to be cleared out, but there's the first blood. The mute deleted. Perez falling by the wayside, and Los One with that first blood. Can they convert the rest of the round?
Where MIBR need to not make the mistakes they made last round. Again, the over-aggression that maybe isn't timed as well. Just being a bit more mindful of these cross angles if they are going to choose to be aggressive. Yes, the roams can be fun. Yes, the sudden pushback can be great. But you need to make sure that the rest of Lost One aren't holding this pressure too, and holding for the potential for you to do so. Really good reads by Lost One already. Looks like they're getting stuck into laundry now. A bit of washing in their pockets that they have to take care of. Lobin is going to pull themselves down that stairs too. And again, with that shield, it's not just about maybe going for a collapse here. It's also the information that you can get out of that safety net that a shield will bring you.
With a minute remaining. What? Lobin's just actually taking his hands off the keyboard and mouse. He's just waiting. He looks so relaxed right now. You would not think that this is a playoff game.
Waiting for the collapse, I see.
Waiting for collapse. Wait a minute. He's still not. There we go. Okay, hands back on the keyboard, hands on the mouse. Here we go. The Candelas are getting thrown beneath the hatch, but Redux not going to be affected. Yes, he is. Luke Udira gets the first one to .0. Nigel replies in kind, but it's a triple kill for Maya onto a teammate of all people. And the dash has been deleted. And with a 2 versus 2, Maya is getting retribution. There completes the triple kill with a 1 versus 2. MIBR falling by the wayside on what is usually the strongest site. Los One takes series point into their pockets.
Goodness me. Do you know what? I respect it. And you know, we did giggle a bit at it. We did giggle a bit at the fact that, yes, hands off the keyboard. But that just shows, again, how much patience Los One were willing to bring there. Yes, I'm in position. I'm ready to drop down this hatch. We just need you to get to E-Box and start rolling those Candelas out for this pinch to start coming through. The call came, the 3-2-1 came, and certainly it paid off. Yes, utility spam. Tons of flashes coming through. Poor MIBR. You know, granted, you can bring Wardens to the table, but that's only one player that is staying alive in those kind of moments. Then the crossfires started being...
Welcome back, everybody. The break, a lot shorter than expected, and that's what we like to hear. Los One versus MIBR. Los One is on map point, series point, in overtime on Oregon to eliminate MIBR to the Shadow Realm. They're looking to carry on forwards to face Team Liquid. But their battle is not done. They're on this basement laundry on Oregon. So far, I believe 100% win rate for them in this game, but MIBR came very, very close on that first round. That's where they brought it down to a 1 versus 1. We were screaming in excitement, but Los One managed to pull it back. Los One looking a lot more aggressive in the early portions of this round. Usually they like to take their way all the way back to the basement, turtle up as we like to say, batten down the hatches, but instead they're opting for a very roam heavy style, different from what MIBR has faced before, and that brings a huge question mark. How is MIBR going to tackle this? This is something new, something different, and a new challenge that faces them into Los One.
Challenging could be the Fawn being brought to the table too. Again, you need to consider the flexibility, right, when it comes to those traps. Unlike all the other traps, which are pretty static in their position, you can really tuck them in the most awkward positions where sometimes, you don't realize till it's too late, especially if they're used for that final execute, Novi. We'll see what happens there. Certainly not an uncommon sight to see those traps work beautifully, combined with the cap can as well. So already Loose One bringing double trap utility. Looks like they want to play this maybe a little bit more passively as the timer starts to tick.
It started off aggressive, but then with the traps, like you say, can play passively. And that means that MIBR takes more time to clear that top floor. Speaking of passively, that goes out the window. Lobin and Rise are just immediately with a quick 1-2 have knocked MIBR, and they're staggering, they're choking right now. Falls once more, taking freeze control. Nigel brings it back within range, but they still suffered that man loss of manpower. It is going to be incredibly tricky for them to close this one out.
Incredibly tricky indeed. Do a push from Freezer though. Potentially the right way to play here. You can make sure that these crossfires are checked, especially with that capital utility. But smokes and firebolts just to cut off these rotations. A really smart play, but there we have it. Goodness me, Lost One. You are the ones winning this map, and you are the ones going through to fight a Liquid. Well played indeed, Novi. A blink and you'll miss it moment. Goodness me, Lost One really brought the thunder in that overtime then.
Yeah, MIBR had a strategy there for the execute, the double push into Freezer, but it was nowhere near enough from what Los One was bringing. Calm, collected in those final few moments, looked consistent and managed to close it